Hello and welcome to another edition of Prosecutors Partners. My name is Dan Satterberg. I'm the King County Prosecuting Attorney. And on this show, we meet the people and the programs that are making a difference in our community. Today, I'm delighted to have two people who are spearheading the Project Mr. portion of the Breakfast Group. That may not mean anything to you right now, but it will in just a moment. First, we have Amani Harris, who is president of the Breakfast Group, and with him also is Bob Harvey. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amani, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for a profession, but more importantly, how you got interested in helping young men succeed.
So I work in finance, and I'm a financial advisor. One of the things that I feel that are really important for people is to be strong economically, and then to really have a strong education that kind of gives you opportunities. I got involved in a couple different programs throughout my life that were focused around helping young people be successful. And I stumbled upon the organization, the Breakfast Group, and I was immediately inspired because it reminded me of a story when I was a young man. I was in the 9th grade. And you know when you're a young person, you have doubts, and you're not completely certain of your future, but you know you should be doing something good with your life. A group of businessmen walked in suits, and I looked at them and I said, wow, these guys are successful. They had a variety of professions. So I immediately ran over to the counselor and I said, who are these people? What do they do? And she said, why do you ask? And I said, because I think I want to be what they are. And she said, well, they're businessmen. And I said, well, then that's what I want to be. I want to be a businessman.
And wear a nice suit, like you have a very nice suit on today.
Thank you. And so it was from there that I realized it was important to get a strong education if you wanted to do those things, and I asked questions and had a chance to interact. So when I first came to Seattle, I got involved in some mentoring, and I found out about the Breakfast Group, and it was a great beginning. And the Breakfast Group is a great organization because it's really a program or organization of African American professionals who get together for the sole focus of trying to improve the lives of young people through education and also helping them create economic opportunities.
And the Breakfast Group's been going on for 40 years, I understand, Bob.
1976.
And how did you get involved?
I got involved about 10, 11 years ago. My prior life was as the president and CEO of the Seattle Metropolitan Credit Union. And we always wanted to hire people, selling people from the community. And we kept running into two different problems. One, either they had some issue with the criminal justice system, which made them not bondable, or they had a credit problem, and that just didn't work well for the financial industry. So I ran into the Breakfast Group through another member of the Breakfast Group, Dan Hudson, who's not here today, and he told me about the Breakfast Group and what they're trying to do to try to interact with those young people before they have the problems we just talked about. And it seemed that I could help out a little bit, and that it was important to me for lots of different reasons.
How do you select the young men that you work with?
How are they selected? Well, the schools select them, don't they?
So we have a strong relationship with the Seattle Public Schools. We are a nonprofit organization of all volunteers, and they consider us a community-based organization. So we work with the schools through their principals and through their instructors and counselors and teachers. And so there's a recommendation of students that are selected for the programs, but a lot of it is through the relationship with the principals. Students are identified that want to go into the program.
And these are young men in high school, 15, 16 years old?
Yes.
Sometimes a little older, yes.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of attitude do you get when you first meet them? Are they a little intimidated, or do they think they know it all, or how do you break through?
Well, when we go into the classrooms, we should mention that there's a member of the Breakfast Group, and Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, just about every week throughout the year, a different member of the Breakfast Group will agree to present before class. And oftentimes, it's how you present yourself and what your background's like. But oftentimes, you anticipate they may not be as interested in you or what you've done until you find some way to connect with them. I've been in situations where sometimes folks will have a head down on a desk or maybe disinterested, but they're unsure because we're talking from a work lifestyle that they may not be familiar with. which is we have a tendency to try to dress down maybe a little bit, to try to get a little bit closer to them, and let them know what it's like to be a professional. Let them know that they have opportunities. Let them know there's growth, and let them know there are people there to support them, that will help them. And oftentimes these young people have not had, I won't use the word role model, but they have not had examples of how life can be other than what they do now.
So you are there to help maybe create some expectations for themselves, that nobody else maybe has planted that seed, that you can do more, that you can grow up and be in the financial industry if you want.
Be whatever you want to be. We have everything from doctors and lawyers, undertakers, banking people, financial people, across the gambit, business people. Mm-hmm.
It's been around long enough, so I presume you've got some people who've been through the program who can come back and try to give back to the next generation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and Bob's mentioned it quite well. The nice thing about it is the young people get a chance to, connect. So the people who are coming in, they usually tell them their story. And believe it or not, a lot of our members can really relate easily to the young people, because they can tell them about, well, when I was in the 9th grade,
That's
or
right.
when I was this young, I wasn't a perfect kid either. I thought that sports was the only way. Then that's when I realized that education is actually the most important thing, and sports is kind of like a secondary item that's for fun, that teaches you some discipline and things that you need to be successful in a profession. And so the young people have a chance to hear that the presenters are people who've been through what they're going through, and they're there because they care and they want to help guide them along the way and give them some ideas. And they probably come into the classroom at the beginning of the year thinking about 1 or 2 different careers that they think might be something they're interested in. But by the end of the year, they've seen 30 or more of our professionals who have now expanded their possibility of what's out there.
It's not just going to be, I'm going to play in the NBA or the NFL. Now I can do
whatever.
Banking, government,
law enforcement. Some of them, believe it or not. We've had a lot of students who express an interest to be police officers. We had a success story of a young man who we have multiple programs, but he was a part of one of the programs where he received a scholarship and attended this big motivational event that we have called the Taiwan On. He attended that event. He met the King County Sheriff, and he is now a police officer.
Great story.
Went through a full loop, and he's like very young, and now we're trying to get him, he's busy, so we're trying to get him back into the classroom and talk to the students.
Now, Bob, you were a reserve officer of Seattle Police for
20 years, enjoyed every day of it, every minute of it, absolutely.
Do you sense when you talk to young people today that they have a preconceived notion about law enforcement, that they don't want to be part of it, or are they interested when you tell them that you were a
unfortunately today they do have a preconceived notion. They're a little wary of people who wear blue or brown uniforms, and they need to receive some assistance, some help, some understanding what's going on out there. First of all, it's an excellent profession, well-paid profession, great retirement plan, great medical plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's firefighters too, of course. If you want to be in public safety, certainly the city of Seattle, starting pay is very high. But again, it's an avenue, a work program or a work life they probably have never even considered. They may consider a little bit more after they hear a little bit more about it.
So the professional men who are part of this group, they'll work individually with young men on a weekly basis. Is that how that works?
So the way it works is we actually have classrooms, and then there's an instructor in the classroom that's paid through the fundraising that we raise, and then those instructors teach a curriculum that's centered around life skills and career planning. So there's a full set of curriculum that they go through with them every day, and then the mentors come through once a week in sort of this group mentoring format that we have. And a lot of the students who are in our project, who are part of the Project Mr. program, they will attend this event that I was talking about, the Taiwan On.
That's related to a tie. It's not a drinking party. It's
so the reason it's called the Taiwan On, it's kind of funny, but the students actually design ties, and they learn about the 4 Ps of marketing, how the promotion and the placement and the product and the price. And so through the designing of the ties, it's a contest, and there's a winner selected. And so that's kind of a part of the program. But the Taiwan On, at that event, they sell ties. It goes back, the proceeds go back into the program to help with other students, and pay a winter fee. And at the tie one on, there's a symbolic rite of passage into manhood that is this tying of the tie. So for some of the young men, they don't have, they haven't been taught how to tie a tie, and it actually happens at the event.
I've been to it. It's very exciting. It's a very profound moment, but it also reminded me I don't know how to tie a tie on somebody else.
What's fascinating about that is that I remember that it was my dad and the Cub Scouts that taught me how to tie a tie, but the understanding that kids in the 10th or 11th grade today, City of Seattle, have never worn a tie, never learned how to tie a tie. And the first job interview, whatever it happens to be, it'd be nice to be able to put a tie on and know what's going on.
Well, it's sort of gotten out of fashion. I think Amani and I may be the only ones in Seattle wearing a tie. So what do young men need to succeed today? I mean, it seems, looking from where we are, it seems like it's harder to grow up today than it used to be. So what are the things that you hope they take away from their interaction with you and the breakfast group?
Yeah. Well, I'll certainly begin to, and when I go into a classroom, there's three things I try to leave behind. One of them, first one, is education. And I let them know that education's forever. I'm still going to school, and I've been retired for 5 years. It's just something that has to happen. The secondly is the criminal justice system, that any big issue with the criminal justice system will decrease their opportunities for their workplace later on. And the third thing, of course, is, and I don't say it jokingly though, is that please not have any children until you get married. You follow those three rules, and now you got a good jump on everything else, for sure. Those are my messages. Amani might have a different message.
Do you have a different message?
I think his points are excellent points. And, if I had to add to what Bob is saying, I think for young people, making the right choices and being optimistic and thinking about the possibilities and applying themselves with a certain amount of dedication and a certain amount of values. We find that the young people we talk to are extremely talented. The funny thing is, I went into a class, talked to some students, and there was a young man, and I started to ask them questions about interests and things like that. And I was surprised at how sharp this young man was. It was amazing. He knew so much information. So I asked the teacher, the instructor afterwards, said, what's his story? And I found out that he was having some challenges in life, but it wasn't because of a lack of competency. It was some choices that he had made and some family issues that he was going through. So I think the ability to push through things and stay focused on how to channel their energy from negative things and turn those into positive, I call that persistence or determination. And then having that foundation of character, knowing how to do what's right no matter what, even when presented with a chance to not do what's right. That's really important. And then I think if they do that, I think that we as a community and as a whole owe them a certain amount of trust. We have to make sure that they feel that the systems or things that they're involved and engaged with believe in them, and that the opportunities will be there if they do the right things.
So you're actually starting to talk to them like they're men, not like they're children anymore.
Well, oftentimes they may even be 18. They are men. As you know, in our country, you can certainly vote at 18. But yes, they're moving along. They're gaining their space in life. They're gaining their space in the world, in their community, and it's good for them to understand it from man to man. We can talk to you. Yeah.
And so these are fundamental, important lessons for anybody to know, but it may be that these young men haven't had another adult man tell them the facts of life.
In the community that oftentimes we're working with, African American community, unfortunately too many young African American males are brought up in communities where there's only one parent, and oftentimes that parent is the mom, not the dad. So we don't always assume that, and we never assume it as a matter of fact, but we certainly want to make sure that we're supporting whatever's happening in the household, or whatever's lacking, we try to fill in for that.
I was reading some of the statistics about kind of what happens at the end of this process. A remarkable percentage of these young men are off to college.
Yeah, and we believe you don't have to necessarily go to a 4-year college. You can go to a community college or a 2-year college. You can go to a vocational school. It's really about obtaining living wage skills or obtaining a living wage career. So the skills necessary to make sure that you can function strongly in society. So it may not always mean college, but we want to make sure that they're successful. So sometimes we try to encourage them with little scholarships. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources that we would love to have. So in some cases, we can only give certain, few scholarships here and there. But for a lot of kids or young people, just getting started is sort of like the key. I don't know if you remember, but I can remember very distinctively being sort of like unsure. I remember I was in a speech class and I was very uncertain about it. And here I am sitting on this set, still nervous, by the way. But I prepared for the speech, did it, everything went well, got a good grade. And I thought, man, I made it through that, I can't believe it. And then this professor runs up to me and says, hey, you need to keep this up, you're good at this. And it stuck with me forever. And I thought, this guy has confidence in me and went out of his way to tell me that. Okay, I definitely need to go ahead and keep finishing and see what else I can do.
So confidence is contagious.
It is.
Yeah, we want these young people to know, young men to know they have options. They have lots of options. And as Armani talked about, it could be a vocational to a graduate degree somewhere and everything in between. And they should know that they're going to be well received when they get to the end of their rainbow.
Yes.
We need them. I mean, if you go around town today, everybody's looking for employees. There are signs everywhere, help needed, help needed, help needed. So it's not like they can graduate or whatever or do whatever they want to do and can't find a job. They just have to be prepared. And that's what we want them to be prepared and know that once they're prepared, we're going to welcome them into the business world and say, welcome, come on in and enjoy the fruits and labors of living in this country.
So talk about some of the life skills that you're trying to impart, in addition to tying a tie, which I think is important. But there's, you talk about, are there some soft skills, or resumes and interviews and that sort of thing that you're working on?
Money?
Yeah, the soft skills are definitely a critical part of it. I can't go through and list all the curriculum, but I can tell you that there's some core level foundational things that we believe are really important, like respect and integrity and character type items. And then there's competency. So how do we encourage them to learn about some of these decisions that they're going to have to make? And planning is a large part of your competency. To know where you want to go, the first thing you got to do is figure out where you are now and start to make a plan and then begin to execute on that plan. So some of it is simple things like we would love to see every young person in middle school, we're not there yet, but we'd love to see every young person in middle school have a high school plan. So how do you become successful in high school? What does that look like? What are the core things that you need to do? And then how do you take your high school plan and make that into a career plan? So we would love it if every young person had a high school plan in middle school, and if they were in high school, they had a career plan. And then you have underneath that some foundational level values that come with that are the core or the foundation of it all. And if you take those things and apply them, to a lot of other details, then they tend to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of young men have prospered because of their connection with Project Mister over the years, and I presume that you've got another cohort right now going through this project.
We do. As a matter of fact, through Amani's leadership, we've actually expanded the number of schools. We've gone from 3 high schools into 5 high schools in 2016, 2017.
And what schools are they, really quickly for the...
Sure, and I want to say it's the hard work that's gone into our organization is really, we got some great people on our board. Our Vice President, Darrell Russell, has been a major driver of this Project Mister program. Mm-hmm. We've got, our former presidents of the board and tons of board members like Ernie Dunstan and Paul Mitchell that this program they were doing when I was a young man. And so, to kind of think about where we've grown is tremendous. Unfortunately, I think I lost track of your question.
Oh, well, so we're
the schools.
The schools. We're talking about some
5
of the
schools.
Rainier Valley
so,
schools.
Yeah,
and
it's grown. And so we started off originally in Southlake and Franklin High School. And now we've expanded to Rainier Beach, Cleveland, and Garfield.
Fantastic. So this is the core Seattle school, Rainier Valley schools, and a program that is so important right now. We're trying to create expectations for young people beyond where they are today.
And really create opportunities for them, because we want to see them make the plans and take the steps to be the next talent pool that's out there. They represent so many things. They represent innovation, diversity. They represent the talent that a lot of employers are looking for.
And unlimited potential, young
and
people.
we want them to see that they can be anything that they want as long as they apply themselves.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't recently one of our kids get accepted to West Point?
Yeah, we have a young man receive a scholarship. I mean, if you met him, he's a humble, very well put together young man, well liked by all of his peers. You walk into a room and you see him hanging out with. We took him on a field trip to a tech company, Google, and if you saw this batch of young men hanging out, you would think, oh, they're just some kids having fun. Yet he's a star athlete, and also over 3.7 or above grade point average. He's accepted into all these different schools. And yes, he is off to West Point. But if you talk to him, he's just a great, good person, you know what I mean? A nice young man. And that's the kind of thing we like to see.
Yeah.
And what's unique about it is that rubs off on the other young men. And they tend to kind of lift each other up when they have good role models, peer role models within their group.
Project Mister is doing amazing work in Seattle. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for being here on Prosecutors Partners.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Tune in next time to meet more people who are making a difference in our community on the Prosecutors Partners. I'm Dan Satterberg. Thank you very much.